Buy her another one. Don't ruin the mood. Mom smiled after my brother's son dropped my daughter's brand new phone into the sink and watched the screen go black. Everyone called it an accident. I didn't raise my voice. Then I unlinked my name from every shared device and payment they used. By morning, the family group chat was melting down. What would you do if your daughter's brand new phone was deliberately destroyed by her cousin, and your own mother told you to just buy another one so nobody's evening was ruined? I'll tell you what I did. I didn't shout. I didn't flip a table. I didn't give anyone the scene they were bracing for. I drove home, sat in my kitchen, and in one quiet evening, I disconnected every payment, every subscription, every shared account, and every device that my family had been leeching off me for years. By morning, the family group chat looked like a house fire. My name is Corbin Hayes, and this is the story of a phone, a sink full of water, and the night I finally stopped being everyone's safety net. Let me tell you about my daughter first, because without understanding Sadie, none of this hits the way it should. Sadie is 13. She's the kind of kid who makes you believe the next generation might actually be okay. Straight A student, runs cross-country, reads books that are too old for her, and understands them anyway. She's quiet in the way that intelligent kids are quiet. Not shy, just selective about what earns her words. She doesn't ask for much. Never has. While other kids her age are cycling through wants like a revolving door. New shoes, new games, new whatever. Sadie makes a list, thinks about it, crosses things off, and comes back with one request. One. And she's usually already figured out how to pay for half of it. The phone was her idea. Not mine, not Renee's, Sadie's. She came to us 8 months before the dinner and said she wanted a real phone. Not a hand-me-down, not a prepaid burner, a real phone. And she didn't just ask, she proposed a deal. She would do extra chores around the house. She would maintain her grades. She would save every dollar from birthdays, holidays, and the small allowance we gave her for yard work. In exchange, we would match whatever she saved by the end of the school year. 8 months. She tracked every dollar in a notebook she kept in her desk drawer. Renee found it once and showed me. Columns of numbers in careful handwriting, dates and amounts, a running total updated weekly. By April, she had saved $312. We matched it. She picked the phone herself, researched it online, compared specs, read reviews like a 30-year-old buying a car. She chose a mid-range model, not the most expensive, not the cheapest. I want the one that makes sense, she said. That's Sadie in 5 words. She'd had the phone for 11 days when we went to my mother's house for dinner. 11 days. The screen protector was still perfect. The case, lavender, her favorite color, didn't have a scratch on it. She carried it everywhere the way you carry something that represents not just what it is, but what it cost you to earn it. That phone wasn't a device. It was 8 months of discipline in the palm of her hand. Now let me tell you about the Hayes family, because the phone didn't die in a vacuum. It died in a pattern. Tyler is my older brother by 3 years. In the Hayes household, Tyler has always been the sun. Everything orbits him, everything bends toward him, and if you happen to be standing in his shadow, that's considered your natural position. He was the athlete, the charmer, the one who walked into a room and immediately became the most important person in it. Not because he earned it, but because our mother, Judith, decided when we were children that Tyler was the one who mattered, and she never revised that assessment. I was the other one, the steady one, the one who got good grades and nobody threw a party. The one who went to trade school, became an HVAC technician, built a business with my own hands, and somehow still got introduced at family gatherings as Tyler's brother. I make a good living. Better than good. Actually, I've built my company to the point where I employ 6 people and turn a profit that would surprise anyone who's ever looked at me and seen just a technician. But in Judith's economy, value isn't measured in competence or reliability or character. It's measured in shine. And Tyler has always been the shiniest thing in her world. Tyler's son Mason is 14. And Mason is what happens when a child grows up watching the adults around him face 0 consequences for everything. He's not a bad kid in the way that suggests malice. He's a bad kid in the way that suggests no one ever taught him that other people's things matter. He takes without asking. He breaks without apologizing. He shrugs when confronted, because the shrug has worked every single time. Judith calls him spirited. Tyler calls him all boy. I call him the reason my daughter stopped bringing nice things to family gatherings. Because here's the thing. And this is the part that makes the phone incident not an isolated event, but the last line in a very long paragraph. Mason has been destroying Sadie's belongings for years. And every single time, it's been called an accident. When Sadie was 9, she got a tablet for her birthday. A modest one, nothing fancy, just something she could read books on and watch nature documentaries, because that's what Sadie does for fun. She brought it to Thanksgiving at Judith's house. Mason picked it up off the coffee table, and 30 minutes later it was on the floor with a cracked screen. It slipped. Nobody offered to pay for it. Judith said, "These things happen with kids around." Tyler wasn't even in the room. I replaced the tablet out of my own pocket. Cost $240. When Sadie was 11, Renee gave her a necklace, a small silver pendant with Sadie's birthstone. Nothing extravagant, but Sadie loved it. She wore it to a family cookout at Judith's house. Came home without it. Said she'd taken it off to go on the trampoline and left it on the patio table. When I called Judith, she said she hadn't seen it. A week later, I saw Mason's girlfriend. Yes, a 14-year-old with a girlfriend, wearing a necklace that looked suspiciously familiar in one of his Instagram posts. When I mentioned it to Tyler, he laughed and said, "Come on, Corbin. There are a million necklaces that look like that." The necklace was never returned. Last Easter, Sadie brought a sketchbook to Judith's house. She'd been drawing in it for 6 months, filling it with portraits and landscapes, and these incredibly detailed botanical illustrations that her art teacher had called exceptional for her age. Mason got hold of it and drew over 3 pages with a Sharpie. Crude drawings. Deliberate. When Sadie found them, she didn't cry. She just closed the book slowly, like she was shutting a door on something she loved. Judith's response: "Oh, it's just a notebook." He was being playful. Playful. That's the word Judith used for a 14-year-old boy defacing his 12-year-old cousin's artwork with a permanent marker. Each time I swallowed it. Each time, Renee said, "This can't keep happening." And I said, "I know, but it's not worth the fight." Each time, I taught my daughter, through inaction, that her things didn't matter enough for her father to protect them. I was about to learn that lesson for the last time. Judith's house. Friday evening. One of her family dinners that she organizes every few weeks. Not out of love for gathering, but because the dinners are stages and she is the director. Who sits where? What gets served? What topics are appropriate? Judith controls the atmosphere the way an air traffic controller manages a runway, with precision, authority, and the absolute expectation that everyone follows her signals. We arrived at 6. Sadie had her phone in her back pocket. She'd almost left it in the car. I saw her hesitate at the door, hand on her pocket, weighing something. Later, I would understand what she was weighing. At the time, I just said, "You okay?" and she nodded and walked in. The dinner itself was unremarkable for the first hour. Judith's pot roast, Tyler's loud stories about a deal he was about to close at work, Mason and his sister arguing about something on their shared iPad, the iPad that was on my family plan, not that anyone acknowledged that. Sadie sat between Renee and me, quiet, occasionally showing her mom something on her phone under the table. She was being careful with it, keeping it close, like she knew, on some instinctual level, that this house wasn't safe for things she valued. Then Mason asked to see it. He was across the table, leaning forward with that particular expression, half curiosity, half entitlement, that he wears when he wants something that belongs to someone else. "Let me see your phone, Sadie." Sadie looked at me. A micro glance, barely a quarter second, but I caught it. She was asking for permission, or maybe for protection. I should have said no. I should have said, "She's good, Mason, thanks." I should have trusted the alarm that went off in some back room of my brain, the one that had been ringing for years every time Mason's hands got near Sadie's belongings. Instead, I did nothing. And Sadie, because she's been raised to be polite, because she's been conditioned by years of don't make a fuss and be the bigger person, and he's your cousin, just let him. She handed it over. Mason took the phone and walked out of the dining room. Not suspiciously fast. Not obviously. Just got up and drifted toward the kitchen the way teenagers drift. Aimless, purposeless, except he wasn't aimless at all. He knew exactly where he was going. What happened next, I didn't witness in real time. I pieced it together afterward from 2 sources, my own eyes, which arrived 30 seconds too late, and a video that changed everything. Tyler's daughter, Mason's younger sister, 12 years old, had been in the kitchen filming herself doing some kind of dance for a TikTok. Her phone was propped against the fruit bowl on the counter, camera facing the sink. She wasn't trying to catch anything. She was just being a kid making content in the only room with good lighting. Her camera caught Mason walking into the kitchen, Sadie's phone in his right hand. He walked to the sink, which was full of water from the dishes Judith had been soaking since before dinner. He stopped, held the phone over the water. Not at his side, over it. Arm extended, phone dangling from his fingers above the surface. He looked at the screen, watched it glow. Then he opened his hand. He didn't drop it. He released it. There's a difference. A drop is reactive. Gravity wins. Your fingers fail. A release is a choice. His fingers opened, one by one, and the phone fell straight down into the gray dishwater and disappeared. Mason stood there for 2 seconds. Watched the surface ripple. Watched the faint glow of the screen flicker and die beneath the water. Then he turned and walked back toward the dining room with his hands in his pockets. I heard Sadie say, "Where's my phone?" About a minute later. Then I heard her push back from the table. Then I was in the kitchen, and she was standing at the sink with her hand in the water, pulling out her phone, and the screen was black. Completely black. Water was pouring from every seam, from the charging port, from the speaker grills. The lavender case was dark with moisture. Sadie held it in both hands, water dripping onto the floor, and she pressed the power button. Nothing. Pressed it again. Nothing. Pressed it a third time, holding it longer, like will alone could resurrect 8 months of work. Nothing. I looked at her face and saw something I never want to see again. Not tears, not yet. Something worse. Recognition. The look of someone who expected this. Who knew, somewhere deep down, that bringing something she loved into this house was a mistake, and who was now watching that knowledge be confirmed in real time with water dripping from the proof. Mason appeared in the kitchen doorway, hands still in his pockets. "It slipped," he said. Flat. Rehearsed. The same 2 words he'd used for the tablet 5 years ago. The same shrug. The same absolute absence of concern. Then Judith appeared. She assessed the situation the way she assesses everything, not for truth, but for disruption. Who was upset? How visible was it? What was the fastest route back to the controlled atmosphere she'd built for the evening? "Oh no," she said, with exactly the level of concern you'd give a spilled drink. "Well, that's a shame. Corbin, just buy her another one. Don't ruin the mood over a phone. Buy her another one. Don't ruin the mood." My daughter was standing in her grandmother's kitchen holding 8 months of saved chores and birthday dollars and disciplined wanting in her wet hands, and my mother's response was to tell me to write a check and move on so her pot roast evening wouldn't be disrupted. Tyler materialized behind Judith, beer in hand. "Kids break things, man. It happens. No point getting worked up. No point. No consequence. No accountability. No recognition that Sadie's phone wasn't just a phone. It was proof that a 13-year-old girl could set a goal, work toward it for 8 months, and earn something real. And it was now dead in a sink because a 14-year-old boy who has never earned anything in his life decided to destroy it. And every adult in the room was telling me it didn't matter. I didn't raise my voice. I want to emphasize that because Judith later told relatives I caused a scene, and Tyler said I was aggressive. None of that happened. What happened was silence. My silence. The specific, weighted silence of a man who has finally reached the bottom of his tolerance and found, beneath the anger and the frustration and the years of absorbing the unacceptable, a bedrock of absolute clarity. I took the phone from Sadie's hands, put it in my jacket pocket, took a dish towel and dried her fingers, one by one, carefully, the way I used to dry her hands when she was small. She watched me and didn't say anything. "We're leaving," I said. Not to anyone in particular. Just a statement of fact, like announcing the weather. "Corbin, come on," Judith started. "It's just we're leaving." Renee was already standing. Already had Sadie's jacket. Already moving toward the door with the focused efficiency of a woman who's been waiting for this moment for 5 years. We walked out. The door closed behind us. Nobody followed. In the car, Sadie sat in the back seat holding the dead phone in her lap. Renee reached back and put her hand on Sadie's knee. Nobody spoke for 3 blocks. Then Sadie said, very quietly, "I almost left it in the car." "What?" "The phone. I almost didn't bring it inside. Every time I bring something nice to Grandma's house, something happens to it. The tablet. The necklace. My sketchbook." She paused. I knew. I just thought maybe this time would be different. Renee looked at me. Her eyes said everything her mouth didn't. This is what you've been allowing. This is what keeping the peace taught our daughter. She learned to expect it. I drove the rest of the way home with both hands on the wheel, and something cold and permanent settling into my chest like concrete being poured into a form. Not anger, architecture. The foundation of what I was about to build and what I was about to tear down. We got home at 8:30. Sadie went to her room. Renee checked on her, came back downstairs. She's not crying, Renee said. She's organizing her desk. That was worse. Crying would have been normal. Organizing was coping. 13 years old and already so practiced at absorbing disappointment that she'd developed a system for it. I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, opened my phone, and I started dismantling. Here's something my family doesn't talk about, because talking about it would require acknowledging it, and acknowledging it would require gratitude, and gratitude is a currency the Hayes family has never traded in. I am the financial infrastructure of their digital lives. The family phone plan, 4 lines beyond my own family. Tyler, his wife, Mason, and Judith. All on my account. $310 a month. I'd set it up 4 years ago when Tyler said he was between plans and needed a few months. A few months became 4 years. I canceled the entire extended portion. My family's line stayed. Theirs went dark. The streaming services. Netflix on my card. Hulu on my card. The music subscription Judith uses to play her jazz playlists every Sunday morning on my card. The cloud storage plan where Tyler backs up his phone on my card. The security camera subscription at Judith's house that she'd asked me to handle temporarily 2 years ago on my card. I canceled every single one. The Wi-Fi bill at Judith's house. She'd asked me to take it over when her provider raised the rate, and she couldn't justify the increase. $89 a month. Canceled. Tyler's roadside assistance membership. On my account. Canceled. The family GPS tracking app we'd all been on. I removed everyone except Renee, Sadie, and myself. I changed the passwords on every shared account. Every login, every linked device, every piece of the digital scaffolding that my family had been standing on without ever looking down to see whose back was holding it up. 45 minutes. Not as fast as Grant. I had more to disconnect. But by 10 p.m., every digital and financial thread between my household and theirs had been cut. Not frayed. Not loosened. Cut. Renee came downstairs. Saw my face. Saw the laptop. All of it. All of it. She poured 2 glasses of water, set one in front of me, and sat down. Good. That night, I slept 7 hours straight. Hadn't done that in years. The morning was chaos. I know because I watched it unfold in the family group chat, the one platform that still functioned because it was tied to data, not to any plan I controlled. Starting at 6:47 a.m., Tyler, my phone has no service. Did you do something? Judith, the internet isn't working. And Netflix is asking for a login. Tyler's wife, Mason's phone is dead too. What's going on? Tyler, Corbin, answer me. Judith, Corbin, this isn't funny. I have my book club Zoom at 10. Tyler, are you serious right now? Over a phone. Judith, call me immediately. Tyler, this is so childish. Tyler, Corbin, I read every message. Responded to none. Made Sadie pancakes, blueberry, her favorite, with real maple syrup, not the store brand, because some mornings call for the real thing. Watched her eat them at the kitchen table, phoneless, using the old cracked hand-me-down I dug out of a drawer the night before so she could at least text her friends. She didn't complain about the downgrade. Didn't ask when she'd get a new one. Just ate her pancakes and told Renee about a book she was reading about a girl who sails around the world alone. 13 years old, and she was already better at handling loss than any adult in my family. Renee sat beside me after Sadie went upstairs. We watched the group chat continue to implode in real time. A slow-motion car wreck narrated by people who had no idea they'd been driving a borrowed vehicle. Tyler, this is beyond petty. Judith, I raised you better than this, Corbin. Tyler's wife. Can someone explain what's happening? None of our devices are working. Tyler. Corbin threw a tantrum because Mason accidentally dropped a phone. That one, the word accidentally, made Renee set her coffee down with enough force that it sloshed over the rim. Don't respond, she said. Not yet. Let them sit in it. She was right. Silence was the most eloquent thing I could say. The confrontation came that afternoon. Tyler showed up. Not at the door, in the driveway. Hands in his jacket pockets, jaw tight, standing next to his car like he needed an escape route within arm's reach. He wouldn't come closer. Like there was a force field around my house that his entitlement couldn't penetrate. "What is wrong with you?" he said. Not a question, an accusation delivered as a question. "Nothing. For the first time in a long time, absolutely nothing is wrong with me. You killed our phones. Mom's internet is down. The streaming, the cloud storage, everything, gone. Over what? A phone that fell in a sink." "It didn't fall. Mason dropped it. Deliberately. You don't know that." "Actually, I do. I let the pause sit there. Let it grow weight. Your daughter was filming a TikTok in the kitchen. Her phone was propped on the counter, camera facing the sink. It caught everything. Mason walking in with Sadie's phone, holding it over the water, not beside it, over it, looking at the screen, and opening his hand, not dropping, opening, finger by finger, deliberately. 41 seconds of footage, Tyler. Crystal clear. So let's retire the word accident, because it doesn't apply here and it hasn't applied for a very long time. Tyler's face went through a sequence of expressions: disbelief, calculation, fear, and then the one I'd been waiting for. The dawning, sickening realization that his narrative was dead on arrival. He couldn't spin this. He couldn't shrug it off. He couldn't deploy the kids break things defense when there was a video of his kid performing what amounted to a deliberate execution of another child's property. He's a kid, Corbin. Kids do stupid things. He's 14, and he's done stupid things to Sadie's belongings 4 times in 5 years. The tablet he cracked when she was 9. The necklace that vanished and showed up on his girlfriend's Instagram. The sketchbook he defaced with a Sharpie. 6 months of artwork destroyed because he thought it was funny. And now the phone. For incidents. For accidents. For times I was told to absorb the cost and move on. At what point does a pattern become a choice, Tyler? At what point do you stop calling it an accident and start calling it what it is? Tyler shifted his weight, looked at the ground. The driveway had a crack running through it that I'd been meaning to fix for months, and he stared at it like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Anything to avoid looking at me. "And here's the part you're not going to like," I continued. "That phone cost $600. Sadie saved $312 of that herself, over 8 months, doing chores every week, saving every birthday dollar, every holiday gift card. 8 months of a 13-year-old girl's discipline and patience. Your son destroyed that in 2 seconds. 2 seconds to undo 8 months. And when it happened, when my daughter stood in Mom's kitchen holding a dead phone with water running down her wrists, Mom's response was, 'Buy her another one so I can enjoy my pot roast.' And yours was, 'Kids break things.' Nobody offered to replace it. Nobody disciplined Mason. Nobody even apologized. Tyler said nothing. The streetlights were starting to flicker on. Somewhere down the block, a dog was barking. One of those small, persistent barks that sounds like a complaint about the state of the world. So no, Tyler, I'm not turning the phones back on. I'm not reactivating the streaming or the internet or the cloud storage. None of it. Not until that phone is replaced. And not by me. I can't afford to replace a $600 phone right now, Tyler said. Quiet. Almost inaudible. The first honest sentence he'd spoken to me in possibly a decade. Stripped of performance. Stripped of the confidence he wears like a costume. Just a man admitting, in his brother's driveway, that the image he'd spent years constructing was exactly that. An image. A set piece. A stage with nothing behind it. Then I suggest you figure it out. Because I've been figuring things out for you for the last 10 years, and I'm done being the one who makes your life work while you stand there and take credit for the results. He left, got in his car, the car whose roadside assistance I'd been paying for, and drove away without another word. Judith called the next day. I answered because I wanted her to hear the number. And because, after 35 years of avoiding direct confrontation with my mother, I was done avoiding. Corbin, this has gone far enough. I missed my book club. The internet has been down for 2 days. I had to drive to the library to check my email. Turn it back on. Mom, let me share something with you. Over the last 6 years, I have spent approximately $42,000 maintaining your internet, your streaming subscriptions, the family phone plan, cloud storage, your security cameras, and Tyler's roadside assistance. $42,000. That's not counting the larger things. The car repair last spring, the appliance replacement at Christmas, the loans that were never repaid. $42,000 in digital services alone, and not once, not one time in 6 years, has anyone said thank you. Not Tyler. Not you. Not Mason, who's been using a phone on my plan to text his friends and play games while simultaneously destroying my daughter's possessions. Silence. The kind that tells you the person on the other end is doing math they've never done before and not liking the total. During that same 6 years, your grandson has destroyed roughly $1,400 worth of Sadie's belongings. The tablet, $240. The necklace, $150. The sketchbook can't be priced because it contains 6 months of original artwork, but the book itself was $30. And now the phone, $600. $1,400 in damage. Each time called an accident. Each time met with, buy her another one, and don't ruin the mood. You've been telling me to absorb the cost of Mason's destruction while I simultaneously fund the platform he uses to coordinate his social life. Do you understand how that sounds? You're being dramatic, Corbin. These are separate. They're not separate. They're the same thing. It's all the same thing, Mom. I pay. They take. Sadie loses, and you tell me to keep the peace. The peace is over. Not because I wanted it to end, because there was never any peace to begin with. There was just my silence, and everyone mistook it for consent. You're punishing me for something Mason did. I'm removing myself from an arrangement where I fund everything and my daughter absorbs every consequence. I pay in dollars. She pays in broken things and the belief that her belongings don't matter to this family. I'm done with both currencies. She hung up. Didn't call back for 2 weeks. The longest Judith Hayes has gone without contacting me since I left for college. I took it as progress. 3 days after the confrontation, Tyler's daughter, Mason's younger sister, texted Sadie directly. Just one message. I'm sorry about your phone. I saw what Mason did. Here's the video if you need it. She attached the clip. 41 seconds. Clear as glass. Mason walking in, holding the phone over the water, releasing it, watching it sink, walking away with his hands in his pockets. Sadie showed me without comment. Just held her old backup phone, the cracked hand-me-down she'd been using since hers died, and let me watch. Do you want me to send this to Uncle Tyler? She asked. He already knows about it. She nodded, put the phone down, went back to her homework. But I saw something shift in her face, a settling, a confirmation. The video wasn't new information to her. What was new was that someone in the family had acknowledged it, that someone had taken her side without being asked. Tyler showed up a month later with a check for $600. He didn't come to the door. He put it in the mailbox. No note. No apology. Just the check, folded once, in a plain envelope. I found it when I went out to get the mail, and I stood in the driveway for a long time looking at it. I cashed the check, gave the money to Sadie. She bought the exact same phone, same model, same lavender case. But this time, when she set it up, she didn't show it to anyone. She didn't bring it to family gatherings. She kept it close, quiet, private. Like she'd learned that some things are too valuable to put in front of people who don't understand value. I haven't reconnected any of the accounts. Tyler got his own phone plan. Basic, prepaid, the kind you buy at a gas station counter with cash. The kind that doesn't have unlimited data or family sharing or any of the comforts he'd been enjoying on my dime for 4 years. Judith's daughter-in-law, Tyler's wife, who I'd always gotten along with and who I suspect was more embarrassed by the situation than anyone, set up internet through a different provider. Took 2 weeks. Judith missed 4 book club sessions and let everyone know it was my fault, which I'm told did not generate the sympathy she was hoping for. The streaming services were replaced by whatever free, ad-supported options Judith could find. She complained about the commercials to anyone who would listen. The digital infrastructure I'd built and maintained for years, the invisible architecture that powered their daily lives, that let them stream and browse and communicate without ever once considering whose name was on the bill, was gone. And the family adjusted the way families do when the person who was silently carrying everything finally puts it down and lets them feel the weight for themselves. Mason, to his credit, and I use that phrase loosely, apologized to Sadie 3 weeks after the incident. Tyler made him. I know Tyler made him because the apology had that particular stilted quality of a teenager reading from a script his father wrote in the car on the way over. I'm sorry I dropped your phone. It won't happen again. Flat. Monotone. Eyes on the floor. But Sadie accepted it with more grace than he deserved, because that's who she is, And because accepting an imperfect apology from an imperfect person is a skill that will serve her far longer than any phone ever will. Judith invited us to dinner last month. Renee and I discussed it for 2 days. We went, not because we'd forgiven everything, but because Sadie asked. She wanted to go. She wanted to see if things had changed. And I decided that my daughter's willingness to extend grace to people who hadn't fully earned it was something to honor, not override. They were. Slightly. Judith was quieter. Tyler was less performative. Mason stayed on his side of the room. Nobody asked to see Sadie's phone. Nobody asked me about account passwords or service plans or when things would go back to normal. The word normal had been redefined, and everyone at the table knew it. After dinner, Sadie and I walked to the car together. She was ahead of me by a step, phone in her back pocket. The same pocket, the same position as that night. She stopped at the passenger door, turned around, and said something that made me lean against the car because my legs suddenly needed the help. Dad, you know what I like about the new phone? What? It's the same as the old one. Same model, same case, same everything. But it feels different. Different how? She thought about it, choosing her words with that Sadie precision. The first one, I earned it, but I felt like I had to protect it from everyone. Like having something nice meant having something to lose. This one, I still earned it, but I don't feel like I have to hide it anymore. She paused. Because now I know you'll protect it. Or, not the phone. Me. You'll protect me. I didn't say anything for a while. Couldn't. Yes, Sadie, I finally said. That's exactly what I'll do. She got in the car, put on her seatbelt, pulled out her phone and started texting her friend about something completely mundane and 13-year-old and beautifully normal. And I stood in my mother's driveway, hand on the roof of my car, and made a promise. Not to Sadie, not to Renee, not to the version of myself that tolerated the intolerable for too long, but to the man I was now. Never again. No phone, no tablet, no necklace, no sketchbook, no piece of my daughter's world would ever be broken, taken, destroyed, or dismissed by anyone in that family without the full weight of consequence landing exactly where it belonged. Some people call that overreacting. I call it being a father. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a phone at the bottom of a sink and a phone in a lavender case, safe in a 13-year-old girl's back pocket, right where it belongs. Right where she earned it to be.